You think wrestling history is about winning? Wrong! It's about who has all the power. And in the early 1960s, all the power belonged to the National Wrestling Alliance. The NWA was this massive empire of wrestling promoters, and they were all unified by one person. The NWA World's Heavyweight Champion! Imagine one guy who was the king of all of wrestling. He was so valuable that just showing up in a city meant instant sellouts. But what if that king just refused to do his job? What if he wanted to build his own kingdom? In 1961, one man, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, was at the absolute top of the wrestling world as the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. But what happened next blew up the entire wrestling business and created a new empire. This is the insane story of how one guy getting stripped of his title literally created the company we now call WWE. It's crazy. To understand how huge this was, you need to know how wrestling worked back then. It was completely different. The National Wrestling Alliance wasn't just a company, it was the company. It was basically a deal between dozens of promoters all over North America. But the NWA had one simple rule, and it was the most important rule. The champion had to travel. The champ was forced to tour all the different territories and defend the belt. This system made everyone rich. A visit from the champion meant a giant payday that could carry a promotion for months. The champ wasn't his own guy. He basically belonged to the entire NWA. And then this guy showed up. Herman Gustav Rode Jr., better known as Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Rogers was everything a promoter wanted in a star, and their biggest nightmare. With his blonde hair, incredible body, and signature figure 4 leg lock, this dude was the total package. He had insane charisma. People loved to hate him, and he made so much money. Plus, Rogers was legitimately tough, a guy you did not want to mess with. His biggest supporters were two powerful promoters in the Northeast, Toots Mondt and a young Vincent J. McMahon. In their territory, Buddy Rogers was a god. The NWA board saw how much money he was making and knew he was loyal to the Northeast guys. They thought they could control him. They took a huge gamble to make him champion, and it would literally start a revolution. So on June 30th, 1961, the NWA set up the biggest match ever. At Comiskey Park in Chicago, the champ, Pat O'Connor, defended his title against Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. O'Connor was the perfect NWA champion, a tough, respected wrestler who toured for over 900 days. Rogers was the exact opposite, a flashy showman. The hype was unreal. They packed 38,622 fans into the stadium, a new record. They made an insane $148,000. That's over $1.3 million today. Putting Rogers in the main event was a massive success. In a 2 out of 3 falls match, Rogers won the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. The NWA was thrilled. The plan was working perfectly. Now, they just had to send their new champion on the road to make everyone else rich. He was their champion and had to play by their rules. But Buddy Rogers and his backers, Vince McMahon Sr. and Toots Mondt, had their own secret plan. They saw the championship as a way to make their own territory dominant. From the second the ref counted to 3, the NWA was on a collision course with its new king. Immediately, things started to go wrong. The NWA had one rule: the champ travels. But Buddy Rogers just stayed home. With the support of Vince McMahon Sr. and Toots Mondt, Rogers kept defending his title almost exclusively in their Northeast territory. For the other promoters, this was betrayal. They voted for Rogers expecting him to be their main event draw. Now, the biggest prize in wrestling was being held hostage. All the other promoters were losing their minds. Their entire year depended on a few NWA title defenses. Rogers refusing to travel was starving them of huge money. He was breaking the NWA's biggest rule, and promoters from all over complained that McMahon and Mondt were monopolizing the champion. And things got dangerous. In wrestling back then, if people didn't like you, they'd hurt you for real. During this time, a number of incidents happened. One story says wrestlers Bill Miller and Carl Gotch broke Rogers' hand in a locker room fight. Another legend says the famous Killer Kowalski went off script and injured Rogers' leg in a match. Whether these were on purpose or not, the message was clear. No one liked this guy. The NWA realized they'd created a monster they couldn't control. So they decided if he wouldn't serve the alliance, they would take the championship back by force. This is literally the moment that changed wrestling forever. If you think this is as crazy as I do, smash that like button and subscribe right now so we can keep digging up these insane stories. You won't want to miss what happens next. Okay, so by late 1962, everything was a complete mess. The NWA was about to have a civil war. McMahon and Mondt's Northeast Territory was on one side, and literally everyone else was on the other. The NWA board, led by Sam Muchnick, gave Rogers an ultimatum. You will lose the championship. Period. But they couldn't just fire him. They needed someone so tough, so respected, that he could force Rogers to lose. They chose this absolute legend, Lou Thesz. This guy was a real-life fighter who could destroy anyone. He was the NWA's insurance policy. The match was set for January 24th, 1963 in Toronto, a neutral location. To make sure Rogers didn't try anything funny, they did something crazy. They made him pay a $25,000 deposit on the belt. That's a ton of money back then. He'd only get it back after he lost. And for step 2, they changed the rules. Title matches were always 2 out of 3 falls, but they made this one single fall. Why? So it would be over fast, with no chance for any tricks. And it worked. In Toronto, Rogers lost the match in 1 fall. Lou Thesz was the new champ. The NWA got their title back. Everything was fixed. Or so they thought. The guys in the Northeast freaked out. Vince McMahon Sr. and Toots Mondt immediately said, "Nope, that doesn't count." They claimed since it was only a 1-fall match, it was bogus. Buddy Rogers is still our champion. And with that one move, they literally broke away from the NWA. They quit. And they started their own company, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, the WWWF. But they had a problem. How did Rogers become their champion? So they just made up a story, a completely fake story. They told everyone that Rogers won a huge tournament in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to become the first ever WWWF champion. He supposedly beat Antonino Rocca in the finals. I'm not kidding. They just lied. There was no tournament in Rio de Janeiro. It never happened. They just handed him the belt in April 1963 and pretended this whole thing was real. So Rogers is the first ever champ of this new company, but he wouldn't be for long. The owner, Vince McMahon Sr., knew he needed a good guy, a superhero for the fans, and he found the perfect guy, a super strong dude named Bruno Sammartino. The title match was set for May 17th, 1963 at Madison Square Garden. And what happened next is unbelievable. The match was over in just 48 seconds. Bruno destroyed him. And just like that, Bruno Sammartino was the new WWWF champion. and he would stay champion for 8 years. But wait, 48 seconds? That's insanely short. Rogers later claimed he had a heart attack weeks before the match and was forced to wrestle. But Bruno said that was a total lie for his entire life. The real story is a huge mystery. One popular version says that Bruno basically threatened him in the ring, telling him, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." And Rogers just gave up. Whatever happened, the 48-second win made Bruno a megastar, and the rock the WWWF was built on. So this whole thing wasn't just a fight over a belt. It was the event that split the wrestling world in two. Rogers' refusal to tour, backed by McMahon and Mondt, showed how weak the NWA system really was. The whole alliance only worked if everyone agreed to play along. The second a huge territory decided to go it alone, the whole thing fell apart. The NWA tried to take back control, but it completely backfired. By stripping Rogers of the title on January 24th, 1963, they accidentally created the company that would one day become WWE. Think about it. The WWE, this global company, was literally founded on a fake tournament in Brazil. It's absolutely wild. Everything in modern wrestling, the rise of Bruno, the expansion in the 80s, and winning the Monday Night Wars, it all comes from this moment, this one act of defiance. So, I gotta ask you, who do you think was right? Was it the NWA for wanting the champ to follow the rules? Or was it Vince McMahon Sr. and Buddy Rogers for protecting their business? Let me know in the comments right now. Thank you for watching this insane piece of wrestling history. If you liked it, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.